I'd like to call the planning commission regular meeting of February 17th to order. If I could have roll call.
Ms. Osmond,
Pat here.
Mr. Eiley. Here. Ms. Brown,
Absent.
Ms. Webster.
Here.
Mr. McFadden, here. Mr. Stanis. Here.
Very well. Thank you. If you are willing and able, you're welcome to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have before us the agenda for this evening. Do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda? Mr. Butler
Second.
and Mr. Eiley. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Very well. Approval of the minutes of January 20th. And as we've done, we're taking page by page, anything on page 1. I have one under the motion. It says on the second line with condition, is it outlines or outlined? The correct that, thank you. Page 2. I have one. Under Nick Capoletti, under with regards to the open meetings, his second line should not entitle a developer to approve. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And page 3. Is there 4? And then page 4. Okay, I'm hearing no other corrections. Any motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Mr. Butler?
Second.
And Mr. Eiley? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so minutes of January 20th are approved as amended. This part of our meeting is for public comments. The planning commission requests that speakers respect the 3-minute time limit for individual comments and 5-minute time limit for an individual speaking for a group. And if you come forward and say that you were part of the group, we would appreciate you letting us know what group you are speaking in behalf of. This is not a question and answer session. It is just an opportunity to voice your thoughts with the planning commission.
Should we know that Mr. Stanis?
Mr. Stanis did arrive at 6:01. Thank you. So I will open the public comment period. If anybody wishes to speak for the planning commission. Well, okay.
Okay,
Come on up, come on.
I have a very brief comment.
No, keep going.
It's Doug Manning, 2566 Lake Shore Drive. I just wanted to thank Morgan Olson. She's done a tremendous job for our township. And we really appreciate what she's done for us in our community. And she really is, at least from what I know, a lot of the glue that keeps the township running. And we will miss her terribly, but wish her well in her future.
Good, thank you. You're more than.
Come on,
Is there anybody else wish to speak in maybe row 2? Sure, come on up, row 3, come on.
Okay. I'm sure I'll be here at the end, so I'll read this in advance.
Okay.
Nick Capoletti, 3279 Blue Star Highway. I'm here to comment on the hamlet zoning idea. And first of all, I think it's great that we got this. And it's very thorough and professional. And that sort of planning is important. And I'm certainly in favor of. I want to speak to the long-term trajectory this framework sets in motion. How has Hamlet zoning worked out in some areas near us? In Union Pier along Red Arrow Highway, mixed-use nodes created a charming walkable corridor. Property values rose significantly, but workforce housing did not meaningfully improve in terms of cost or availability. In the Hudson Valley, Hamlet zoning concentrated growth at crossroads while preserving farmland between nodes. It worked aesthetically and economically, but as those hamlets became desirable, pressure mounted to expand their boundaries. Property appreciation followed, affordability did not. In Bend, Oregon, hamlets began small and intentional. Over time, initial caps loosened, infrastructure demands grew, small scale gradually became large scale, and then the larger scale than originally envisioned. Traverse City shows similar patterns. Vitality in housing choice idea, yes, but also higher land values, more traffic, and an ongoing debate there at their planning commission in their town. Across these examples, the pattern is consistent. Hamlets rarely remain static, property values rise, and mixed-use zoning alone does not guarantee attainable housing. The Hamlet model assumes growth is coming and pre-zones multiple intersections to shape it. Not a bad idea. An alternative approach would be more surgical and more directly tied to affordability and what I am in favor of. If housing diversity is our goal, we could expand accessory dwelling units throughout the township-wide, allowing gentle distributed infill that actually benefits local property owners, year-round residents, and is more affordable. This is common in many areas, exceeding hamlets, in fact. We could rely more on the PDU, requiring traffic analysis, fiscal impact review, negotiated affordability commitments before granting higher density, which is a proven model. It's surgical and gives us quite a bit of control on a one-on-one basis. And if affordable housing is a central objective, then we could say that clearly and incentivize it clearly through density bonuses tied to long-term rentals, deed restrictions, public-private partnerships, or targeted incentives for workhouse housing. Zoning alone does not produce affordability. Policy, in fact, does and is needed hand in hand. Blue Star will evolve. The question is whether we are signaling a long-term corridor transformation or setting firm guardrails while directly encouraging the type of housing the community needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the planning commission? Anybody on Zoom?
If anyone on Zoom would like to speak, please raise your hand. Going once. Going twice.
No. Therefore, I will close the public comments to the meeting. Our next portion of the agenda is under new business, and there we have a presentation from the rest of the companies associated with the Hamlet development framework.
Good evening, Commission. Yeah, if we're able to share that presentation, I can walk through that a little bit. And you have the framework with some of the images in there too. We can go through that first, and then my colleague Julie Sherhart will be going through some of the zoning amendments.
Technology issues, everyone, I apologize. Top one.
All right, if you wanna go to the next page here, so, as all of you probably recall from our, previous meeting a few months ago, when I kind of talked through some of the survey results and the feedback from the community on housing more generally. This framework that we put together really tries to distill in a very simple way the work that we've done on Blue Star and how the Hamlet district ties into that. So I'm actually not gonna start with housing, surprisingly, I'm gonna start with Blue Star itself as a road. And if you see some of the pictures there, that's what the gentleman earlier mentioned was Union Pier. And some of the work that has been done along Union Pier to really beautify the corridor and turn it from what we call a through street. So, you know, Blue Star was built as a highway many years ago. Where it's transitioning and it's going through this process of becoming a to street where you're actually going to Blue Star to go to places, right? And that's a lot of what the work of the Blue Star Highway Safety Plan is. So with looking at this hamlet zoning and allowing some more development, as you can see on kind of similar to what we're showing in the pictures here. What we're really hoping to do on one hand is to create a safer Blue Star Highway. So as you all know, there's the posted speed and then there's the speed that people actually go, right? So even though it could be posted at a certain number, people are gonna go as fast as they feel comfortable going. Another aspect besides posted speed is something that we call design speed. So you could have the post say something, but if it's designed in a certain way, it makes the driver feel a little less comfortable going really fast. So one of the elements of that is to have kind of development along the road and some more vertical development along the road, which actually slows down traffic more intuitively rather than what the posted is. So this is kind of coming out of that Blue Star safety plan work, is to really start to concentrate development in that area and try to align with some of the work of the safety plan to see what's gonna happen for the next iteration of Blue Star. Go to the next slide. So this is the proposed future land use map in this framework, and you can see it's relatively unchanged from what the township currently has. The only changes are a couple identified locations at certain intersections that would allow for this mixed use hamlet zoning. You can go to the next slide. And this is just kind of a conceptual example of how this could potentially look in practice. So if you can see how the plaza, if you're looking at that building in the middle there, that's going to be the future plaza for the township offices. And you can see how some 2- and 3-story townhomes or mixed-use buildings could fit in this intersection and start to complement what's going on in the plaza. So really bringing some targeted development to the corridor. Going to the next slide. So a lot of this really came out of the survey that was conducted as part of the housing study. And there was over 300 residents that replied, and really a variety of housing was of interest. So this was a result of, you could pick more than one answer, and folks had a mix of 2- to 3-story apartments, townhomes and condos, senior housing, or mixed use. All were potential opportunities that they saw would be a good fit along Blue Star. So 92% of respondents picked at least one of these, and 8% said there shouldn't be more housing along Blue Star. So overwhelming majority of respondents was in favor of more housing and different housing choices along Blue Star. And I think one of the really interesting things too that that we're seeing in the township, as you all know, vast majority of the housing in the township is single family. And because most of the households in the township are 1 to 2 persons, there's folks that are kind of looking for some more choices. They want to stay in the area, age in place, but they might not want the big single family house. They might want to downsize to something a little more amenable for their living situation. And again, on the left there, that first column, that first response, 55% of respondents. So we basically gave them a and B choice. Would you prefer to live in a place that's smaller and closer together? with schools, stores and restaurants within walking distance? Or would you prefer a place that's larger and farther apart, with places that are farther away? And 45% of respondents would prefer the larger and farther apart house, but 55% would prefer the smaller and closer together house. And that varies a little bit by income, so you know, if you're looking at folks that are making 99,000 and below, that number for those smaller and closer together, the more walkable areas actually went up quite a bit. So for us, this is showing not necessarily that we need to curb single family housing, but just that we need more choices in the township to try to bring available housing products on the market for these groups. So that's really, I mean, that's the big crux of this development strategy in these hamlets. So it's, you know, a big thing is really trying to see what we can do outside of the curbs to calm traffic and start to make it a little bit safer at these intersections. And also reduce the development pressure on some of the more rural and agricultural areas. So when Julie comes and talks through some of the zoning, you know, the single family areas, the rural areas in the township, we really want to keep those as rural as possible. And there's also potentially opportunities to decrease some density in some of those areas, at the same time allowing for a little bit more housing choice along Blue Star, and some more options here. So any questions on the framework? And before I go over to Julie and talk through some of the zoning amendment changes. It sounds good, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I do have a more current version of the draft amendments. They're not really different from what you're seeing. They just don't have the red line, so they might be a little bit easier to read. So I did print these out in case you would like to view it in this version, although, again, there's nothing really substantive that's different. Yeah, it was just a few, so, so it's nice to be here. My name is Julie Sherhard. I'm a planner with Progressive Companies, and we've had the pleasure of working with Lene and Daniel for the past year-ish on both this development framework as well as possible implementation through zoning. And so the amendments that you're seeing, and actually, could you pull up the draft amendments so we can have them on the screen? Thank you. So, you know, one element that we're trying to focus on is changing land use at specific nodes along the Blue Star Highway corridor. And the idea primarily is coming through the idea of having a new zone district, a hamlet mixed use district. And so this would be a mixed use commercial district that allows for multiple types of housing by right, adding some variety the way that the township currently operates. You can have multifamily in the PUD. And I know there was a comment earlier about the PUD process, which can be a great tool in terms of, you know, negotiating for public benefits in a project and working through something that's more complex. But one of the ideas that we had is let's make doing housing easier, fewer public meetings, fewer, you know, hoops to jump through, so to speak. And so by laying out very clear standards for by right development, we're hoping that folks could take advantage of this hamlet district. So I can walk through a few of the elements of this. So again, this is the first that you guys are seeing it. We've gone back and forth with Daniel and Lene, and so you know, welcome your questions and your feedback here. So one of the key elements, let's see, which page do I want to go to? Do you want to advance maybe to page 5? Yeah, so the way this memo is written, it's kind of in order of how you would approach these changes in the zoning ordinance itself, but in terms of talking through this, I'm just gonna go in a little bit of a different order, so. Yeah, so for the Hamlet Zone District, different than some of your existing commercial districts, the minimum lot size is a lot smaller. As Eric mentioned, this Union Pier example is one that we sort of looked into, as well as a few others. As a way to sort of allow for development on smaller lots, sort of piecing things together in a more incremental fashion, and so. The minimum lot size is targeted to be roughly the same as one of the parcels that's identified as being in the Hamlet district. And so having significantly more opportunity for parcels within the district by lowering that minimum lot size. There are also some sort of differences in lot width and frontage that are, you know, sort of tailored to this smaller lot approach. In terms of the scale of what might be allowed, 3 stories is what we're proposing, which is similar to your other commercial districts. If you go to page 6, we are allowing for higher lot coverage, so allowing for businesses to be built next to each other, taking up more of the lot while still, you know, having similar setbacks from abutting residential and, you know, still having the requirements of the tree protection zone. Although we've identified parcels that are suitable for this zoning designation are generally ones that don't have a lot of trees in the front yard, and so that tree protection zone likely wouldn't come into play with a lot of these parcels, but that does still apply. Another thing that we have really focused on with this district is access management. So as Eric mentioned, this came out of a Blue Star Highway safety plan. And so when we're thinking about the feel of Blue Star Highway and how can we shape land use and shape travel behavior at the same time, one thing that became important is to limit access from Blue Star Highway. So you guys have access management standards that would remain in place, and we're encouraging no new driveways off of Blue Star Highway to minimize conflict points. And for the districts we've identified as being suitable, there are generally cross streets where these parcels could have access from a secondary street, and the similar provisions that you already have for having shared front service drives or rear service drives, shared driveways, etc. So I'd say those are sort of the defining elements when it comes to dimensions. One other note, for multifamily, we are proposing to remove the minimum living area requirement for each unit. And so it's definitely true that zoning is only one piece of the puzzle when it comes to affordability, but our view is that if we can remove certain restrictions, then, you know, if one parcel can share the cost of land across more units, then that's a benefit, while still being able to have it scaled to a hamlet sort of intensity by limiting, you know, the height, and obviously there are still other requirements that will act as you know, mitigating factors for how many residential units could fit on a parcel. Another sort of key element of the Hamlet district is just, again, the uses that it allows by right, and so allowing for multifamily if there's public water and sewer available, allowing for townhomes, 2-family, similar to a couple of your other commercial districts, not allowing for single family, as we want this really to be a different sort of mixed use environment that is more, yeah, just not exactly the same as surrounding single family. And as Eric mentioned, one of the things that we talked about, especially given the preferences that people voiced in the survey, is let's target different housing choice along Blue Star and maybe remove some of the other forms of housing from surrounding R1. And so one thing that we're proposing is to remove townhomes from R1 and instead try and really focus this housing development along the corridor. Those are sort of high level notes. I'm curious if you guys have any questions for me or comments for us rather.
On your map.
Yeah.
You had a hamlet designation at the southern end of the township. Look, I was trying to figure out where it was.
I think Renee might be able to speak better to what that intersection is currently, but
196.
yeah, right there.
Yeah, right now that is vacant land, it's just north of Jars. Where the Just Barnes development is.
Oh, okay. It just seemed like there was logic to others where there were intersections and such, and that's.
Yeah, we didn't want to change the industrial that surrounds that parcel since that is where we have active cannabis growing facilities and also the retail. But that parcel is a large parcel, single owner parcel. We felt that there could be opportunity there for that type of infill development. And then if you look at it, if we saw the land use pattern for the city next to it, you know, I think it matches when you think about motel and
Gotcha.
hospitality and other uses to the north. And just to clarify, we don't have an active master plan amendment process happening right now. This is just a focus study for how we could conceptualize this idea that Julie and Eric explained about this kind of concentrated mixed use and more, I guess, dense types of housing formats to help slow traffic and create more of those development nodes at key intersections. This is purely for discussion purposes. We're not proposing any master plan amendments at this time. That if we were doing that, that would involve more public review and more of a public process. If we were to do that, this is one idea, and then the zoning changes. You know, one of the options that we talked about, and as you know, you couldn't rezone to say Hamlet unless our future plan corresponded, right? So that's why we asked to have this future land use plan shared as an option. If we were to have zoning for Hamlet, we were thinking it could almost be a floating zoning district. Meaning, you know, people who currently have C2, most of those purple Hamlet parcels right now are C2. It would remain C2. It could be the option of the landowner or future development team to rezone to Hamlet if they were located in these nodes.
So that would be instead of an overlay?
Right.
In essence, we're doing an overlay, or is it not really an
It could
overlay?
just be, no. Let's say we went through a master plan process, we updated our future land use, and this was the map. Future land use is just future vision, the zoning isn't changing. Those purple parcels that are Hamlet continue to be C2, but in our zoning book, we have a new district called Hamlet. That means that those property owners could either stay C2, come in, do development as C2, or maybe they like the Hamlet, they like the opportunity, they could rezone to Hamlet. So it's sort of a floating district, it's in our book, it's optional, but we're not gonna proactively rezone properties. It's gonna be the choice of a property owner, as it always is.
Your definition for hamlet?
I think in here you did create a, like a new district description on page 2.
Yeah, why don't I read that? So each zoning district in your ordinance does have a purpose statement that's especially helpful when you're considering like a rezoning application. And this is what we came up with for Hamlet mixed use. So this district is intended to cultivate nodes of mixed-use development, generally at key intersections along Blue Star Highway. A mix of commercial and residential uses are encouraged to allow for increased walkability, vibrancy, and activity. Mixed-use buildings with active ground floor uses and residential dwellings on upper floors are encouraged. Pedestrian amenities such as outdoor dining and gathering spaces are prioritized, as well as infrastructure for bicyclists and pedestrians. Access management is particularly prioritized in this district, increasing safety for all road users via the limitation of conflict points and efficient design.
When we were working on that land use map, we spent a lot of time looking at our aerial maps to make sure that we were matching up property lines, we were looking at where we have tree canopy, we didn't want to encourage, you know, any conflicts with our tree preservation ordinance. There's also access management provisions that relate to that conflict points and efficient design. So we wanted to select parcels where we knew there could be access on side streets, not just Blue Star Highway. So there's a provision in the suggested zoning language that there wouldn't be new curb cuts on Blue Star, because we're really trying to minimize how many of those conflict points exist, which is a safety concern today.
So is it to be identified as specific intersections? 'Cause I'm thinking like that.
It's all on that map, right?
Well,
So
I see the green, so it looks like it's Blue Star Highway to Holland Street, and then Blue Star all the way to the bridge basement.
it's
Or the
just
saw-
those,
Is that what I'm
No.
looking at?
it's just like the dark purple right around,
Okay.
maybe Eric, if you
Yeah,
wanna
if I
point
can
them
point
out.
over here.
Yeah.
So it's. These darker purple intersections. So where we are right now is really, you know, one of the spots up here. And then that intersection a little bit further down, is this, I can't remember the name.
Old Alley.
Old Alley again, yeah. And then a little bit at this 134th, kind of five-way. Or, yeah, kind of confusing intersection, yeah. So it's, yep. So it's really those three and then the spot on Jars, is that correct? Yeah.
Okay.
Would be helpful if your colors on the map matched your table.
Match the zoning, yeah.
So I
That's fair.
green on here, you were talking about the purple.
I know, yeah, I agree.
So it sounds like you were describing spot zoning along Blue Star where. Somebody could buy a property and say they want they want to rezone to Hamlet, 6,000 square feet, next to them is a 1 acre, 1/2 acre.
Well, if spot zoning wouldn't be the case since we would have a future land use map that would call for it, right?
Yeah, and even without, we talked about, you know, since you're going to be hopefully updating your master plan within the next few years, you know, is there justification for this new Hamlet district even without? And the description of your sort of mixed use residential and commercial district as it stands now in your 2016 master plan, you know, it calls for mixed use. So there's a way in which the Hamlet district is already sort of recommended by the master plan that you have on the books, but this framework helps to target it and show the ultimate, you know, vision in the future with.
Guess I'm a little confused as far as that. So when we looked at the initial photo and the, you know, to slow down the traffic on Blue Star Highway and, I mean, I get that, you know, you make the space smaller,
Yep.
people are gonna go slower, right? If you give them this huge wide right away, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna go faster.
Yeah.
But, so I picture that as a corridor, so I guess maybe that's why I was thinking, you know, that with the green on Blue Star Highway,
Right.
that, you know, that was gonna be that corridor, cause I'm envisioning a corridor going all the way down Blue Star Highway, but maybe that's that corridor area that I'm talking about, just concentrated around the hamlets.
Yeah, so we're really trying to do two things at once with Blue Star, and one is on the intersections that are kind of underdeveloped. So this is a good example of where we're at now. There's just places that there's no trees. but there's not a ton of building there, right? So those are spots where we would wanna try to use what's already underdeveloped and add some of that density. But then through the corridor, that's where we're kind of focused on preservation and tree canopy and kind of keeping that rural feel. So it's a very targeted approach to these intersections of providing housing choice at these specific locations, but then preserving kind of the feel of Blue Star and other locations in between these intersections.
I assume there are no changes to the right because I know that you're not cut off at the township. So it'll all be yellow to the right.
Yeah, on the other side of 196.
Oh, there you are. It's the view.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, and that was another thing that Julie mentioned that came out of this work is actually making the rural places more rural by eliminating townhomes in those areas. And moving those really to the hamlet district that's where you want your housing choices and kind of these different options, and you keep the R1s of the rural as, you know, a very rural feel.
So I don't think this will be the last time that we look at this and discuss this. It might be that some planning commissioners could wanna have, maybe like a committee, you know, a non-quorum type of committee or, you know, some other approach to kind of dig into this a little bit more.
Well, you know, there was a couple things that I was thinking about, because certainly as we go forward and if we're gonna do something and keep talking about the future land uses, that really is a lot more intensive than just saying, yeah, let's do it. We just can't do that. We can't create a new, future land use plan without a master plan. So it's almost like you're putting the cart way before the horse, because we don't have that. Now, whether in fact we have an interest in this hamlet thought in regards to the zoning, well, you know, maybe that is something. So my thought was either we would have a special meeting where we actually have a work session, which might include the entire planning commission. Or if you wish to have a smaller group and that you only have 2 commissioners who are interested in this, plus we could seek out some other residents to also help, as we did with the when we did it way back, I forget, when we had all those different committees, yeah, and the housing. So, you know, again, we don't have to make a decision tonight, and we can certainly, really think about all this and everything, and I'd ask the commissioners of what your thoughts are, so that when we come back in the next meeting, we can make a decision as to how, if we wish to move forward. Would that seem reasonable to everybody, to give you a chance to really listen, you know, thinking about what was said today and looking at the materials and so forth? Would that be reasonable? That, and then our next meeting in March, that we actually try to figure out how to move forward? Does that seem reasonable, or do you want to make it a decision tonight? No, okay, all right, I thought I would just put it out there in case somebody had a different opinion. Okay, so we will take all this, we'll have a discussion at our next meeting and then see if we can figure out a way to move forward.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. All right, the next business is looking at our bylaws. And as I mentioned, that I will take it basically page by page. You did have this in your last month packet. The difference between what you have from last month and this month is the Word document also had comments from the attorney. This one does not. It's, again, strike through is just associated with the text that was deleted, because it actually was. You probably will also find that it wasn't really deleted, it was just moved to a different area. And it made more sense. And then the whole is about new task. So if in fact you take it, and this was done, Jackie Brown and I worked on this. I think we started back in October. And we looked at it a couple times. Before we bring it forward. So anything on page 1. that you feel that's not right, as you can notice, strike through on 1.2 is the chairperson. Again, I don't think any of the correspondence is actually given to the chairperson. You're included, but it's probably sent to your planning and zoning administrator, and then she distributes it to the rest of the group. So that's the only reason why that was changed, because that's not how we operate. So that was struck, and then, of course, just talking about when the secretary is absent, if Steve was out here, then Jackie would have been secretary. And so, look at that.
Yep.
Okay, page 3. Or excuse me, page 2. Again, the secretary does assign minutes. We don't do that anymore. So that was why the reason why that was struck. And then, again, just talking about if the secretary is absent, this is who will be the secretary at the meeting. Okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, down below, on page 2, about special meetings. The comment by the attorney was about the written notice. I can tell you that, we don't do the written notice isn't given to the secretary. However, he's concerned that if we don't have a written notice, how would we know? So the thought was maybe it would be to the planning zoning administrator instead of the secretary. And then the planning, that's where the written notice would occur. So the special meeting, I'm looking at 2.1. The special meeting will be called by 2 members. We would keep upon written request to the planning zoning administrator. Or by declaration of the chairperson. Would that be okay with everybody? Instead of going to the secretary, in other words, it's cutting out the middle name. Okay, all right. Okay, planning zoning is what we use, and then the rest of it is just about how we do hard copies and so forth, and that's basically how we practice.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I have a comment.
yes,
For the packet for commission members shall be available electronically 6 days in advance and hard copies 5 days. Do you think we could just make them both 5 days? I mean, it's often more than that, but sometimes there's holidays.
that's, again, that one, okay, so we're gonna strike 6 days in advance. Oh, no, you want to say that both electronic and hard copies are done 5 days?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the 6, replace that with 5, okay, to make it similar, okay, thank you. Anything else on page 2? Anything on page 3? The only thing that was changed is 2.4, again, looking at Robert's Rules of Orders. It's just a matter of changing, we do a call and then we do the pledge. That's how meetings are done, usually like either you do a prayer or whatever, and then you do roll call. So it's just a change in regards to when. Don't think anything else is really. Bottom is, we've deleted non-agenda items. Anything on page 3? Page 4? Nothing? Page 5?
Oh, I'd like to point out that Zoom is a proprietary software. So in.
Page 5?
Yes, if we were to change that, we'd have to amend this. Unless
What do
there's
you want?
definition somewhere that say Zoom for people. Virtual, online.
Yeah, virtual format or something.
Okay. So instead of the Zoom, you want virtual
So.
Platform.
platform, okay. And I will change that where any place that we see Zoom. If there's another down.
Yeah, there's another one.
And right now, since we use Zoom, we can say Zoom, but if that changes, we would, okay. All right. Anything on page, anything else on page 5? About page 6.
Why are you striking all of the possible outcomes?
I think it's because it's just repetitive.
Yeah, because it's a bug. Okay, that's good.
Statement that we-
Yeah, that's like it.
About, page 7,
Is one needs title really planning slash zoning?
yes.
Seems, you know. Like planning and, isn't it, zoning?
I know.
Okay, it's just.
It makes it look so easy.
Are we on page 7, 6, 7? About page 8. Page 9. Now, the reason why that was highlighted on 5.2 is about conflict of interest, and it's just a reminder that that is going to stay as is. Is that really what we need to do is if a commissioner has a conflict of interest, they need to bring it forward to the planning commission. The planning commission then decides whether that person is a conflict of interest. So
Well,
we have not done.
So I have a question about that. So if you present that I think I have a conflict of interest on this particular proposal, and I bring that to the board, and the board says, no, I don't think you have a conflict. You have to participate. I think if I feel there's a conflict of interest, I shouldn't be forced to participate. If I want to participate and have clarification from the board, saying, I have a very extraneous conflict of interest. I am disclosing this, I don't think it affects my ability to make a decision or a recommendation or a vote on this. But I don't think, I was trying to get a grip on whether I can be forced to act.
I don't know how I can respond to that, only that, again, this was within our bylaws,
Well,
and our attorney hasn't looked at it. So I'm not sure how to,
I guess then let's run it by the attorney. Because I think if somebody feels they have a conflict of interest, they can't be forced.
I don't think that says that, I don't believe that says that.
Okay.
I think it is that,
I think it does say that, but it's required change.
yeah,
Say they may be able to participate in the vote.
well, I have a little bit of experience with that from previous life. There was somebody who wanted to not vote because he didn't want to make his family mad. And that's not a conflict of interest, but he wanted to be excused from voting because he wanted to keep his family happy.
Okay.
But without his vote, there was not a quorum. So if it's a real conflict, then they should be excused, and if it's a made up conflict, they should not be excused. It happened when I was in a meeting maybe 2 or 3 times, so it's not that
Yeah.
prevalent, but
I was gonna say, but isn't the solution to that is that if you're short of quorum, if you're running that, you postpone it till the next meeting and make sure that you have other people there. Therefore, I mean, unless it was some sort of dire emergency, I just have a hard time being told that if I think I have some of a conflict of interest, that I have to participate.
I think it's just an opportunity for the board to determine whether or not you have a real conflict. Or if it's something that you're doing for your own convenience.
Convenience is a good word.
All right, so what's the thought is keep it as it is written? Or do we need to go talk to the, I guess, our attorney?
I would talk to your attorney and see if that, which interpretation is better. Are you being forced to vote? Or are you just inconveniencing your, or trying to make more convenience for yourself?
Because the alternative is then now you're forcing somebody to do something and you may get a result from that person because they're under coercion from their fellow members to participate. You cast a vote. I'm gonna say no just because you're forcing me to say something when I should say yes. Or something.
Lene, do we need to have a discussion with our attorney about this?
Yeah, I think it would be fine to have that discussion.
Okay.
I mean, he did review this, but, you know, we didn't pose that scenario. to him.
Right.
Okay, so we can do that, and we'll do that. And the other part really was, his only comment was that a commissioner has a conflict, they do not have to leave the room. Just have to remove yourself from the table, and you don't have to go outside, and you don't have, you can go out in the audience, but you can't sit at the table. That was his only comment. But, now that we have this, we'll have to go back to him in regards to that issue.
While you're at it, Cindy, you reminded me that I've been in situations where I've observed people are afraid to vote because there are repercussions from other people. And that's the dimension we should consider too.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you're sitting here, you have pledged to, you know, use your best judgment.
So they're using the word abstention, they abstain, and really extent, that's not how you,
That's not an option here.
right? So we don't, unless you want to make it an option, but, abstention is that you don't have enough information, that means that it's not that stops you from, because you don't want to vote, because it's, you know, there's conflict, it's, I don't have enough information in order to, you might have missed a meeting before, so now, you know, I'm not part of the discussion, so I'm gonna abstain from my vote, because I really just don't have all the information, versus, well, my family members next door, and I like it, that's not how I use abstention, to my knowledge. It's not-
No, I'm suggesting I've observed it where someone's afraid, not a family member, they're afraid and they just chose that.
And they, yeah,
They should not, but they did.
Well, and then what Steve pointed is that if you apply to this, you bring a certain amount of character and strength of purpose and realize there are some decisions that are hard. We've had a lot of meetings where people want more density and then the neighbors from next door, that we don't want to, you know, we don't mind more density, just not next door to us. So, you know, this is a tough place to sit. Having said that, you know, we have a wonderful relationship among this board, but we change. And if in the future, this board evolves into something else and somebody says, I have a conflict of interest, I won't do this. They're gonna compel that person to vote. So, yeah, I would say, ask the attorney what his thoughts are, because it can be abused either way.
all right, so, well, conflict of interest. And are we really concerned with that paragraph 5.2? Is that the one that really, is there anything else in that, or do you want the whole chapter?
Just by two.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all you're wanting.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? We'll do that.
There's no definition of conflict.
That's right, it should say, is it financial? Is it
5.1 indicates that.
I think E,
E?
5.1, 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it does say that.
Oh, there you go. I thought I saw it.
All right, anything else? Is there anything on page 10? Page 11? Again, was just added, number 3 was just added to the planning zoning administrator since, Lenee does it all. And then on the, page 12 is just to read, making sure my numbers are correct.
Maybe the 5 day, 6 day thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. Okay, that's number 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the last page, I mean, nothing was changed on the last page. All right, so we will insert, we'll talk to the lawyer, make some corrections of what we have, and then, we'll come back and, hopefully be able to complete this next month. Yes, okay, thank you. All right, next order of business is final condominium plan, trail cabins on front of 3/20/04/03. The applicant is North Shore of Saugatuck, LLC, Scott Ostock. Okay, so with that, Lenee.
Yeah, as you all recall, on August 19th, the planning commission recommended preliminary approval of the conversion of 5 cabins at the Pine Trail Camp to condominium. The planning commission and the applicant has come back with many of their materials delivered to you in their binder, addressing the conditions of approval. We still feel like one item is missing, which is the blessing / approval of the Allegheny County Health Department. Additionally, we had requested that the septic system and replacement areas be shown on the site plan, and those are not shown on the site plan. So minor things, nevertheless, we did want to have this on your agenda for discussion purposes. At the time that we prepared the agenda, there was also not final approval by the fire department, but they did send that approval letter today, and you do have copies on your desk. A couple other items, and some have been addressed, but we did know that there's no easement from the condos to the well site, and the well site was not included on the plans. In later correspondence with the applicant's attorney, they did draft up a sample easement, but we have not reviewed that or have not provided that, or received the blessing of our township attorney yet. So, there's just some minor things that we want clarified before giving the final approval on this. A few other things that were noted, or that I noted, is that the landscape plan, it would be nice to show existing trees and vegetation, to have a note that says that no more existing trees would be removed, you know, or follow our tree preservation policy. We do have a requirement that no one tree species can exceed 50% of the total. And all the new trees that are proposed are all the same species, white pine. You know, there's pros and cons with that. I think we love white pine in our community, but we wouldn't want to see a situation where there's some type of disease that wipes out all one species. That's why we aim for diversity of plant materials. We also, as I mentioned, want to make sure that the septic and well and replacement areas are included. Yeah, so I guess I'll open that up. Scott Ostock is here.
Any questions at this time for Lenee, or do you want to move ahead with Scott? Okay. Scott, you're up.
With that.
Well, let me, this book. So Scott Ostock on behalf of North Shores. So the book that you have in front of you, the green book. And maybe just sharing a perspective with you tonight. So the book was prepared and dropped off on January 7th of each year, so it would have been, you know, a little over 30 days ago. And it addressed pretty much all the items that were outlined, actually addressed all the items that were outlined by all of the review letters between the fire department, your engineer, and your planner and zoning administrator. Then on February 10, 7 days ago, when they did another review letter, and Brandon Newbach did another review letter. And I was out of town, but I did get a letter sent an email. And so North Shores, you know, engaged in and tried to address those items in the last 7 days. And so we made our way through the items. The fire department, I made a call to Chris over there, and they didn't realize there were another review that was due, because if you recall, this is a conversion of 5 existing cabins that have their own septic systems and their own water system today. And the fire department, you know, we weren't moving the buildings and we haven't changed the road or anything. They didn't realize they had to do another review. So as a kind of, I feel like almost a favor, they knocked one out real quick today and again, jump through some hoops to get it done before the meeting. Carl sent back, or our in-house legal sent back a shared well easement agreement to Linnae and to Nick Curcio on the 12th to address the well, because the well is next actually off of this property. It's shared for the whole camp. So there, you know, there's 13 buildings on this property that all use the same water source. So when I seen the letter, obviously the items that Linnae addressed pretty much go back to Allegan County. And so Allegan County, just because I've been down this road a few times before and it wasn't that long ago, I just sent a letter, Linnae's letter, Prime New Hawk's letter over to Allegan County, and then reached out to Scott Jones to talk to him about it. And the letter, as interpreted, or as you read it, and then Allegan County, Scott Jones' knee-jerk reaction would be, oh, this is like a new site condo or raw land development. And I'm like, no, it's not really a raw land and it's not a site condo. It is a conversion of existing structures as they sit today. And he said, well, just fill out the form for basically a preliminary plat review. And if you recall, when we did the barndominiums, that was raw land. And we took the raw land and we divided it by site condo into 8 lots. And so when you do with Allegan County Health Department a preliminary plat review, what they want to verify before you go dividing this thing up and before you record it, before you spend a bunch of money and effort, that number one, the soils are acceptable for septic systems. And that, you know, the area actually has water. And so if you recall in the barndominiums, we had an existing type 2 well already on the site. So we had a water source, plus we had already obligated ourselves to putting in city water. And so if you recall, we had an approval based on the existing water, and then before occupancy, we would put in municipal water. But then part of the septic test is they come out and they actually auger in the ground and they make sure that your soils are conducive for putting in a septic system. And so when I talked to Scott Jones, we probably could have got a little of this work done, but there is a sanitary convention going on. I think it's Indiana or Ohio this week, every week this time of year. And so pretty much all the Allegan County is down there. And I think the last I heard it was 60 some degrees there today. And they are enjoying that and not working on this. But maybe as some background, so we don't know what Allegan's going to require at this point. I talked to Scott twice last week just because he wanted to reach out to Eagle, find out if Eagle had any oversight or overview or any ideas on what to do here, since it is a conversion, because it's not a raw land plat. And so he did responded back and said. The requirement for these 5 cabins is that it's a type 3 well. We have a type 2 well system there. Type 3 is a lower threshold. So he said, you're fine. But he said, ironically, Eagle just dropped on him Thursday of last week, a new 7-page water testing requirement for all water systems, whether they're municipal or private. And he said, we haven't even read it yet, and it has a lot of new stuff in it. And it has new organic materials, it has PFAS, it has a bunch of other things in there that haven't been part of the water testing. So he said, maybe we just gotta come out and test your water, make sure you don't have any of these new organic materials in it, and then you're good to go. But we don't know that. Because he doesn't know that it actually even is gonna be relevant because this is an existing water system. And then he said septic systems typically would come out and auger it, but you already have septic systems, we already approved them, you already installed them, and it already had a backup location. So I don't know exactly what we're doing there. But he said, just in the meantime, we're gone for a week, fill out one of your preliminary plat for raw land and site condos and send it in to us and we'll deal with it when we get back. So that's kind of where we're at. I do have literally the well and the septic permits and approvals from Allegan County for the site as it exists today. But I don't know what kind of oversight, and neither do they at this point. So I thought, at least I might as well get to the meeting and still have the meeting because, you know, I presented this book back on the 7th. I didn't have these requirements and he's kind of jumped out since that time. They were 7 days ago. We responded to what we could, but we couldn't address the water and sewer. The water and sewer, I never even crossed my mind that that would be an issue because they already exist. They were already approved by Allegan County. And it may be that we're talking about nothing that doesn't matter. Or maybe we gotta go out and check all the boxes and do a bunch of augers and figure something else out. But we wouldn't put reserves on condo docs. You would show them on a site plan, but you wouldn't put them in a recorded instrument. So I guess I'm sitting here wondering, can we move forward and administratively just say, hey, now we have a green light from Allegan County Health Department, we won't record a master deed or do anything, or do we answer any questions that you have tonight and get back on the docket again? We wait for Allegan County to figure out what they're gonna do in the next 30 days or whatever many days it takes. And then I come back before you with a letter from Allegan County that says, hey, you did this, or you don't have to do anything.
Commissioners, you have any questions? No?
Well, I see the part about the water supply and, the septic. What about the question that the engineers raised about whether these are public roads or private roads?
It is a public road. Duckout Road is a public road.
That's what I thought, I just, but they,
He brought that up again because in our condo docs, we talk about that it could be private roads. I mean, it's they're generic documents, and we talk about by definition, private roads and public roads. And he kept focusing on the private roads, so we just changed the word road to driveways.
That was fixed since then.
Right.
okay.
Any questions?
Was the road then, is that the way it's designed and built now, that meets the standard of the public road? So as far as the right of way goes and everything?
Yes, and then your fire department actually, I just asked them to review it, make sure that we didn't have anything unsafe down there and that they actually had to turn around at the end down there. So they put a drawing together for them really early on Monday morning.
Is that what this is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then I had asked them if they could review that just as if it was new And would it meet the requirements, and so they did verify that the road actually meets the standards for the fire department.
So what about the comment that whether it meets the requirements for the Allegheny County Road Commission, then it's saying that the approval from them should be attained?
We did send all these materials to the reviewing bodies and they, during the first go around, and they had no issues, no comments. That was when we heard that there was initially a desire to convert that road to a private road, but Scott has since changed his mind on that and is not pursuing that. Therefore, it remains a public road and there are no comments from the county road commission on that.
Oh, I'm just indicating that's what the engineer said, that we should get something from them verifying that. So they're saying it may not. It should be noted that this road likely does not meet the ACRC requirements, so approval from the ACRC should be obtained.
I literally don't know.
I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, I read it too, and I actually responded back to him, but I never got a comment back because it is a public road. I can't change it. It's just like I can't change Blue Star.
Right.
Where is the well located?
And if you,
Well, I guess the well and the septic, yeah.
so if you look at the plans, I believe on page 3. Tab number 4. I think the utility plan is page. Oh, sorry, it's page 4. So if you look at page 4. If you look at unit number 1 and the river way, you can see the septic in the drain field. And then if you look at unit 2 and 3 and you look in between them, you can see the septic and the drain field are identified. And then if you look at 4 and 5, and you look off to the right of the driveway on number 5, you can see the septic systems and the drain field. And then if you follow the W line for the water line, you can see where it kind of daisy chains all the way from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it curves around and it goes in front of the garages and it goes right behind what used to be the cafeteria. And it is currently a type 2 well, so there's actually 2 well points there because it has to be a redundant system for a type 2. And so that's why there's an actually shared access agreement that's was sent in there. Curcio and stuff to show that the people at for the homes here have access to maintain and operate the well.
I think you, as regarding the sanitary, I think you answered this, but I guess I just want to make sure that I know those were existing sanitaries or septic systems, but I mean, I don't know what the architecture is and the units, how it's changed, but I'm assuming you got more fixtures and toilets and things, or no?
No.
So it meets all the, okay.
Because if you remember right, this was a camp that could have 1,000 people there. And so, yeah, we got a lot less toilets, a lot less showers,
Okay,
a lot less and everything.
that makes sense.
So I have all of their applications and all of their permits and stuff here with me for their septic systems, and they are built to a much greater capacity than what they would need to be for what is current use that's proposed. And so is the well system.
There's still the proximity to the river.
Pardon me?
There's still the close proximity to the Kalamazoo River, so. Yeah, I want to see what the health department and Eagle have to say about that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be under Eagle's jurisdiction, it would be Allegheny County. I did clarify that with him. Or he did clarify that with Eagle.
Anything else from the commissioners at this point?
Well, what you said about possible new standards is just hearsay, basically.
No, I actually have the letter from where you go.
Oh, you did, okay,
Yeah,
so
and I-
you're telling us that quote.
Yeah, I forwarded it to. No, maybe I didn't send it to Lake, I forwarded it to. Simon Newhoff, maybe, I sent it to our engineers because they weren't aware of it either. But I do that, if you'd like to see.
No, I just don't know how we consider. Do we hold that into our consideration?
Oh, there,
What would a remedy be? Let's say there was some substance found, does that mean that a special kind of filter has to be installed, or does that mean that well cannot be used?
the only experience that I've had so far with this is that there is. A couple situations of people that I know that have, and they're in rural areas where you don't have. A public system to bring water in, and they have property, and it's a farm situation. And they tested really high for PFAS, and so now they can't use that water, and they can't drink that water, and so. Right now, I don't know that anybody has a filter system that actually removes that. So. It's just kind of a moving target right now because it's new. That wasn't something that was tested for historically. And it wasn't something recognized as a big concern. But it probably is going to, I mean, water is an important point. Gonna be an issue, I think, going forward.
Well, the one thing that I don't think we discussed, but the engineer raised the 2,700 feet from the water main question. I know you got existing wells there, but I don't know if that was discussed when they would.
That was something that, we have not discussed, whether they remain on the well or connect.
Obviously, if there's a PFAS issue or something, that would be probably a solution for that.
Well, not necessarily. What happens if it's the other way? What happens if your Kale Lakes has a PFAS situation and you need our water?
Well, there's that.
So, don't, I wouldn't.
There's be a much bigger meeting.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't narrow it that way. I just know that historically on blighted properties, you have a water problem. It's not really a water problem if you're next to a municipal system, because historically municipal systems are safe, they're supposed to be. And you simply connect to them and you abandon your well and everything's good. But things could change now because this is new.
Well, I know that I think that I'm pretty concerned with regards to me making a consideration. One is, the actual, description of the, parcel. As noted by the, engineer, is that there may be a discrepancy, so we need to get that corrected.
Nope, we actually did do that and your engineer was incorrect and they actually sent a letter on the 12th to address that to your engineer and Renee to point out that their legal description was correct. And that his notes were incorrect and
That's
he gave them
correct.
a
Okay.
back to show that.
Okay, so then therefore that's, take care of that. My other concern was really basically not having all the necessary, permits, mainly from the, Allegan County Health Department in regards to understanding the well and the septic. I'm really concerned with that, especially with this, with the changes that have occurred and so forth, especially with that drain field. I'm unit 1, close to the river. I'd like to have the verification from the Allegan County Health Department. That is a permitted drain field where it's at, and so. I also, I didn't think it was, well. Your one driveway goes kind of really close to the drain. I'm really surprised that they're allowing that driveway to be there, to going over the line from the septic to the drain field. So.
Unusual because septic lines actually go through public roads.
Okay, so I'm just looking at that, this, from a little bit I know,
You pointed out your concern with the septics for unit one or too close to the river, but those are permitted in that location, correct?
Right.
well, it was at.
It
When
was,
it
it
was,
was not.
when it was a campground, but is it now?
Why would it not be now?
Cause things change,
So the distances have been increased.
I don't know that, and I'm saying, I need to have verification from the Allegan County Health Department that, yes, that is allowed, is. We don't have that particular letter to say that we are,
That
so,
is true. I mean, and at this point, we've kind of opened that box. So if Allegan County says there's a new rule and that's too close to the water, then we'll have to put in drain field in. I'll plan with that.
so therefore, I would wanna have that letter and then, your adjusted, site plan in order to make sure that that is permitted where we're going and so forth. And the other concern is, the landscape, we don't have a good landscape plan really. That we typically will see in most of our other, site plans, so I was having some issues with that as well. So those are my two.
Is that related to the monoculture or trees, or is it beyond that?
Everything is, and I do know that the one, both the trees and under, was it Q?
I can kind of see why
Is
the
it
farm
cute?
trail can't go on that.
Yes.
Trees.
So Q, I see that, but is that sufficient? Is the plan that we have in the under Q sufficient, the landscape plan, and I'm not convinced that it is.
Well, there's a serious issue as to water and sewer.
Yes,
So I guess the question I'd ask the petitioner is that, do you think this is something that if we were to postpone this for 30 days, is that too short of time? I don't want to keep dragging you back here from meeting after meeting.
No,
It may be snowy and crappy in March and you may not want to be here, so, we fully understand that, so.
No, I don't think 30 days is probably a realistic time to get Allegan County. I mean, they have to decide whether I even have to apply first as a raw land plat. And then if I just say, you know what, let's just do it, because quite frankly, they haven't done any conversions that they can think of anyways. And so if we just did a raw land plat, we would just have to go out and auger sand and test water. And then if there are new, if we said, hey, we were gonna, let's just take this like it was, a clean slate. And if the rules have changed and, now it's 125 feet from the river or whatever, we may have to move a drain field, but we wouldn't have to build it. They would just say you need to move it. And here's the space that we've already augured and you could move it to.
Okay.
So I mean, it isn't like when the barndominiums that we did, we didn't come in and go build all the septic systems and put the wells in and then get your final approval. We got an Allegan County raw land, questionnaire filled out. And then we were done. And in reality, we're kind of way past that because we have existing septic systems and existing water system already on the property. And we may have to modify something. But it isn't really a planning commission thing or a zoning administrator thing. It's an Allegan County thing. And Allegan County, if the water's not good, they're not gonna let people live there. They'll put a little note on the door that says no occupancy. If the septic systems aren't good, they put a little sign on the door that says not inhabitable until you fix the problem. Because Allegan County is its own, its own organization, its own enforcement, and its own set of rules and regulations. But you guys can decide whatever you want to do.
I don't necessarily have any issues with, obviously issues with the project, other than I tend to agree, it'd be nice to see what Allegan County says prior to.
So let's just postpone it for 30 days. That's all.
We're okay with that.
And I don't have a problem with that either. I wanted to talk with everybody tonight because I didn't want to present this and then, 30 days go by and then all of a sudden I got another big list of things that I got to address. I'd like to have a little more time to do it. And what I'm hearing so far is you'd like to see a different landscaping plan, but how would you like, how would?
Well,
different?
you know,
Putting all these notes on the drawing and then showing the do not disturb areas, if you're maintaining the landscaping. We do have that 50% of the monoculture requirement, so if you wanna add another, other species to that, you can.
but do we have a good example? I mean, that we could have him see a landscape plan from prior site plans? Sure. That might help.
Right, yeah, this is a little different because it's wooded already, there's already natural stuff there, so we're not trying to change it, we're just trying to enhance it a little bit.
Okay, so we can work.
Yeah.
We'll work with you on that.
Okay.
Um,
Is there anything else that this group would like to see?
I think that was everything.
I guess I would say to the planning commission to please keep your binders and bring them to the next meeting, and we likely will have updated inserts for a couple sections.
Yeah, I'd like to see the engineer's letter updated, because he raises all kinds of issues that may or may not be applicable, public, private. For legal description, it'd be nice to get his confirmation that these issues have been resolved, so.
Yep. And returning.
On page 4 is, where is the well? I understand the water lines, I follow the water lines, but where is the well associated with your whole?
But I mean,
That was a question that was asked. Where is the well?
right, and there's a shared access agreement, but if you know, are you hooked up to Cal's system at your house?
Yes,
So if you sell your house, does your survey show where Cal Lake's wells are? Because that's kind of.
no,
what it is.
but we're not talking about, my house, we're talking about a site plan
Right.
where you're supposed to indicate where it is. It's
Right,
like,
but Cal Lakes is a public-private water system, so is this. Where the wells are should be irrelevant, as long as these people have access to maintain it. And
well, then I don't see how I would maintain it. If I were going to buy unit 3, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do that without these site plans, I'm sorry.
I'm assuming the docs, the HOA docs and stuff, if it is a private system, it talks about how to maintain all that stuff.
shared maintenance is in the docs, and there's also a recorded shared access agreement, but the location. You can't put in there because it could move someday. Just like Cal Lake's system, the wells change, they move, you abandon wells, you get new wells.
I don't think
It's not a recorded document.
But not all of these documents get reported, right? Isn't there a plan that is for township use? That would be a recorded document?
Those are the actual recorded documents right there. There isn't like us.
I guess maybe run that by the attorney also, if we would require the well be. I kind of think asking for where the well is located, knowing that it could have to change in the future, that would affect the people who buy these condominiums, I understand that. But I don't think asking for the location of the well is too big a stretch.
Or just provided another drawing for internal use of the whole
It could
area?
show up on the, it's just off the edge of it or whatever. Got the water line going further, but I think the engineers purposely didn't include it because it's like Cal Lake's system, you don't know, nobody knows where the wells are, it's supposed to be kind of that way. Because they don't want to draw attention to those wells. But. I don't know that it's that big of a secret.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, I would. I would appreciate a motion. What are you moving?
Postpone it for 30 days.
For the next meeting.
So therefore, Mr. Butler's motion is to postpone the final condominium land for Pine Trail cabins on parcels 0320, 004, 003. Applicant is North Shores of Saugatuck LLC. Is that yours?
I couldn't have said it better.
Oh,
I'll second that.
Mr. Stannis. Do we need a roll call or can we do like this?
You can do
Voice. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
She didn't understand, Jackie, I think Jackie was on Zoom there, if she had any comments.
I have, I can share any of that with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Looking for commissioners, those who have the, just keep it, those who are on your, electronic, put it in a good file and they don't have to accidentally delete it. All right, communication, any correspondence?
Just highlighting, I sent you all of the January 30th memo from the township attorney. Just letting you know that that's there. Hope you all got it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Which might, have effect on the, when our, what is it, enclave come back?
Yeah, it was clarifying the, parallel plans for PUDs. And then project updates, wood and iron, I do not have anything yet that's been resubmitted, and today was the deadline for the March meeting. I haven't heard from them. Blue Star Bend, no updates. We don't have any, building plans yet or civil plans. Saugatuck Lodging, we are in process. I reviewed a set of plans today that were delivered yesterday. Still a couple things that we're working out with them, but they're hoping. AutoCam. They're hoping to get their zoning permit and then the building permit is in a two-phase process. Singapore retreat, they reached out and wanted to start clearing and I said, wait a minute, we don't have any engineering plans reviewed or approved yet, so. Or a tree preservation plan and, you know, so. Hopefully they're working on that. The Enclave, they are still working on updating their parallel plan. I reviewed several versions of it and, you know, there's still some questions there about some driveways. So, I don't have anything formally submitted.
Thank you. Commissioners, any comments?
The other question I have is Wooden Gate or Wooden Iron doing anything over there, or are they?
Oh, I haven't been over to that site, but I know that they did submit some updated plans to the Drain Commission for that pond. But I haven't been over there.
Okay, maybe by the next meeting, just if they're not, because they're not gonna be on the next
Yeah,
agenda and they, you know, this all started because they were taking action there without permission. So the fact that they're delaying applying here, at least it's worth the drive out there to make sure that other things aren't happening.
we'll
That's
do.
all I have.
Township board report?
Township board report, the township agreed to participate in a partnership agreement with the county for the flyover imagery for the GIS. The Patel Land Division was approved by the township. The data center moratorium was adopted by the township board. The Blue Star Engineering proposal. I have drawn blank on that one. Lakeshore Drive commitment resolution, there was a lot of spirited and emotional discussion about that. In the end, the board did approve the commitment resolution. Then the pre-development accelerator pilot program is for the intersection near the Blue Star Gym. It's the preliminary, it's a grant requesting money for the engineering and it's accelerated, so if it gets approved, everything has to be done by the end of September.
Is that for a potential roundabout?
It could be a roundabout, it could be it results in some dead ends, but it's for the engineering. The money is for the engineering. And then the progressive planning and engineering is the proposal that accomplished that.
What was the item on Lakeshore Drive?
To close the gap, rejoin Lakeshore Drive. Either, it was a grant application to the federal government to kind of reconnect Lakeshore Drive. And there are some really big, heavy restrictions on that with the federal government. More than would be with a state grant, including involving the tribes and making different alternatives available for review. And that is not going to be a fast project. That will be a slow project, but we did get a lot of sign-on from our politicians. Heisinga, Peters, Joey Andrews, and Eric Nesbitt, and sign on from Alden County Road Commission,
Basically endorsing the idea.
endorsing it, yes.
What about residents?
We're going to have, open house meetings for all the stakeholders.
So, yeah,
That's in the works, but we want to wait and get a little bit more information before we start those stakeholder meetings.
You know, yeah, thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the second public comments, and again, the same rules apply. So I will open the public comment. Is there anybody who wants to address the commission?
Jonah Legoski, 3347 Gaslight Lane. Thanks for fixing the heat. It's great, but
A lot easier.
it's so much easier, not shaking as much. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the township. I know that the progressive, the hamlet designation is something forward facing. I know it's very early, so I just saw it in relation to the enclave development. I saw the same parcel as a potential rezoning, so the radar kind of went way up. But I just have just a couple notes and comments. Again, appreciate that. I know that it's early, so I won't go too deep into it. And I know this is a question and answer, but you mentioned the attorney letter on the parallel plan process, and I don't know if that's public, that's open to be in the public or not. But that's a question I'll get answered after the meeting. I know in the proposed or potential zoning, not proposed, but potential rezoning, there was some changes for the ADUs, adding that onto duplexes. Which again, it can play into a lot of different things, so that seems like that's a whole separate issue that should be pulled out of that. I'm not sure why it was rolled in with the hamlet designation. And on the hamlet thing, obviously I'm sensitive because I live on property near the roundabout property that's affected by, or could be affected by it, and I don't see the traffic calming just because it's great changes and wetlands pretty much around the roundabout, so you're not gonna build, you can't build up to the roundabout, so it doesn't actually achieve. So it just seems like a way to get more density there, so I don't think it's gonna get the traffic calming respect or effect that you'd like there, if that's, again, way down the road. But some of that property is zoned R1, not C2 or C, or just nothing C2 around that, C1 and R1. On that particular intersection, some other intersection, I think this is C and not C2 in this site as well. And this overall multi-family, and I'm just checking on the iPad as I'm looking through, but it's not allowed by right in any zoning district right now in the township. So this would be a huge, hamlet would be a huge change for that. Right now, everything has to go a PUD or special approval, and I think that makes sense. I think that the engineer from Progressive said the word would be easier. I don't know that easier is better for public comment, so I know you guys will take that all into consideration. Yeah, I think that's it. Just appreciate the time and for all the discussion. It was great to hear the bylaws update too. It was tedious, but important, so thank you.
Anybody else in the back row?
Like cut in line or anything.
for Morgan's sake, I'm taking 5, and I was hoping to do it under 3. Just in case it goes over, but I just wanted to follow up on a few things that Cindy had mentioned. So this is a really interesting program that the Michigan Infrastructure Office Technical Assistance Center launched. It's an accelerator pilot program, so we had to get our grant application in early. This is the first time they're offering it. They may not offer it again. But they offer communities up to $50,000 for infrastructure improvement projects that they thought were competitive for federal grant programs and that they wanted to accelerate towards actually getting federal dollars for implementation. So we were able to secure $50,000 through that program for doing the initial planning, design, engineering, and then some federal permitting coordinating work for the intersection of Blue Star Highway, 134th, 65th Street. So, you know, the township board and the board definitely heard the concerns with Singapore retreat. So we're trying to be very proactive in being able to move forward a design, and then from there, setting ourselves up for application to a federal program. So it would be with the highway safety program that we'd be applying for federal dollars. So that's all moving forward. And then we also were able to complete an application for, again, $50,000 to the Michigan Coastal Management Program. And that would be to complete a Saugatuck Township master plan. So it is the coastal management program, but their money will pay for a total update of the master plan. $50,000 is a 50% match, so we're expecting to spend about $100,000 on the project. And I think one of the bigger components of this project, I think that's interesting to share with you all, is that we did pitch to them that we would have a chapter totally dedicated to coastal resiliency. We have talked to a few experts in coastal engineering who would be interested in being a specific consultant for that chapter. But we definitely want to be looking at that lakeshore area and some upland marsh areas so that all of our planning efforts take into account sustainability and the sensitivity of our coastal areas and resources. So it's in the works that we're gonna set up the money to be able to do our master plan updates. So the timeline is essentially looking to actually start the work January 1 next year. So by January 1, having all of our consultants lined up, and then being able to have our kickoff meeting. So just kind of a timeline like that. And then I guess just to wrap up, I was excited, Lene was excited to kind of show you some of the preliminary work that we were doing with the hamlet districts. You know, it's super preliminary and it's some, you know, kind of new ideas and big ideas. And I think that you all are really thorough and fantastic and ask great questions. And so looking forward to you taking that information and then making that your own and working through it. That's all I got.
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Daniel DeFranco, 6122 Old Alec Road, Saugatuck Township.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wish to address the commission? If not, I will.
On Zoom, we have Zoom.
Oh, I'm sorry, Zoom. Is there somebody on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, just a second.
Can you hear me? Whoa.
Yes.
Dang it. That didn't work.
I think it's better now.
We can hear you
Okay.
fine now.
There you are.
The name and address, please.
Well, this is great.
Elaine, can you hear us?
No.
No.
He might.
Morgan, do you want to put in the chat that we can hear her?
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting passcode followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 5 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You have been added to the wait. You are muted.
Can you hear us?
All right,
Can you just maybe,
great. I'm still getting a lot of feedback here. This is Elaine. Oh, gosh. This is Elaine Isley from the Saugatuck Dunes Coastal Alliance. I did try to join in earlier, so I apologize for my late comments, but I just wanted to make a couple comments about the North Shore proposal that you're now giving 30 days to. I won't belabor some of the things that were already said by the Planning Commission. There were still some outstanding questions that we had wanted answered from the county. Sounds like that was shared by you all. But we did want to make some additional comments about the boat slips. The only mention in this particular application about the boat slips is that there is no application pending it currently at Eagle and the Army Corps. But if you go online to the Eagle portal, there's nothing that says that their application has been withdrawn. So we do have some concerns about the number of boat slips that have been anticipated. Eagle's earlier notes noting that the docking mooring for riparian property, including condos, function and meet the definition of a marina. And we are really opposed to a marina in this part of the river. We have some significant environmental and cultural concerns by putting too much infrastructure in the river. Also, if docks are put in at this location, the site is now over 3 acres, which is not what is listed in this application. So since this has been put off for 30 days, I will not belabor any other issues, but we appreciate that you gave them 30 days to hopefully correct some of these items. And I apologize that Mr. Boschkraft has already left, because like I said, I tried to do this earlier, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else on the?
If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand. No.
Right, I will close the public comment. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved, Mr. Butler.
Second.
Mr. Eiley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.